Hello and hello. Thank you so much for joining me today. How you doing? Today we're reacting to a video by one of the best, Boss, legend. Check him out, link down below. Stopped by the German police. Here's what you need to know. Wow. That would actually be terrifying. I'm not gonna lie. Being stopped in any foreign country by the police would be terrifying. But especially in Germany, because from what I've seen, the German police don't mess around. Like, literally, they just don't mess around. They don't play games. I don't think I've ever seen one smile. So that would be terrifying. So you got to know what to do. And I'm very curious to know what that is. Let's do it.
You're visiting Germany and are stopped by the police who start asking you questions. What do you do now? What are your rights in this situation? And how can you make sure that you don't get yourself into trouble? In this video, I'm going to give you just a few pieces of advice. But first, I am not a lawyer, so this is not legal advice. Also, this video is not going to be helpful to you if you are in a very serious situation.
This is as close as I can afford to get to legal advice, so I'm going to take it to heart.
If you've been arrested or are to be questioned as either a suspect or even a witness, then you really need to talk to a lawyer. Now, I don't want to give the impression that the German police are bad. Normally, they are professional and well-trained. It's not like some countries I could mention where you have to be very careful not to get shot. That is very rare.
What countries do you think he's referring to there?
In Germany. Let's put this into perspective. In 2019, a total of 15 people were killed by police in Germany.
15 people. You know what? I need to know. Okay, 2019. How many people were killed by police in 2019 in USA? 1,004 people. Damn. And the population is what? You guys have like 80-some million people. We have 300-some million people. So maybe 4 times as many people. But like 20 times as many people shot by killed by police. Damn. Unfortunate. But I mean, I will say, part of that reason is there's a ton of people with guns here in America. Like a ton of people with guns. So, yeah. That's how most people get shot by police, is by having a gun.
That is approximately...
And you know, like, holding it or not dropping it or reaching for it. That's how you get shot by the police, for real. Like, on a real note, here in America. If you do that, you're getting shot.
Approximately 0.00002% of the entire population. In the same year, US police
I didn't need to do any
shot
of that,
dead
Matt.
nearly 1,000 people,
Well, according to Wikipedia, it was 1,004.
which is 0.0003%.
So over 10 times higher percentage.
In other words, statistically speaking, you are 15 times more likely to be killed by police in the US than in Germany. However, while the German police are generally more professional...
Isn't that a crazy stat? 15 times more likely? Holy.
They're not perfect, and like every police force in the world, they're made up of human individuals, and not all of them are as professional as others. So you don't really need to worry about your safety, but it's still good to know your rights. The general principle is that the police cannot stop you randomly, although there are some exceptions.
That's good to know, okay, because I feel like that's a fundamental right here in America, basically, where you can't just you can't be randomly stopped by police. And I like that. I think that's a great right to have as a human being, to not be stopped for no reason by the government. Sounds great.
Normally, they need to have reasonable grounds for suspicion, and they need to tell you exactly what they suspect you of. A very important exception to this rule is the general traffic check. In Germany, police can randomly stop vehicles to check that they are roadworthy and the drivers fit to drive. They can
randomly. Wow, that's interesting. I mean, I guess you say that you can say once you're driving a car on a public road, you've subjected yourself to, being stopped, which I can understand. That makes sense.
Can give your
But here in America, that is quite controversial. The only thing comparable is that they have random DUI checkpoints sometimes where they'll check if you're over the limit for alcohol. But I'm pretty sure by law, you have to be able to, like, avoid the checkpoint if you so please. Like, they cannot pull you over for turning around. If you see a checkpoint, you can turn around and leave. And they can't stop you for that. That's not a crime.
Your vehicle a quick visual inspection, and they can also demand to see all the things that you are legally required to have in the vehicle. So a high visibility jacket, a warning triangle, and a first aid kit.
I really love those things. I love that Germany has those regulations in place for if you get in an accident, you need that high vis vest, that triangle. I think that's smart. I think that makes sense.
As well, of course.
And it's not like it takes up much room. I think that's pretty cool.
As your driving license.
And especially the first aid kit.
But without reasonable grounds for suspicion, they cannot search your vehicle, and they also cannot force you to take a breathalyzer test or give a urine.
Unless you give them permission, which I'm guessing is the same in Germany. But, they need suspicion over here in America as well to search your vehicle or your permission. Which basically means they will pressure you because you're not going to say no, are you, to a police officer? I mean, you can, but they're going to just be assholes then.
Sample or anything.
So it's kind of a lose-lose.
Of that nature, at least not without your consent. So let's say you're stopped by police and asked to take a breathalyzer test because they say you look like you might be drunk. Now you can legitimately refuse, but should you? Well, if you do refuse, then the police must consider whether they have reasonable grounds to take you to the police station for a blood test. So the risk to you, obviously, is that you get taken to the police station. The risk to the police is that actually everything's fine, you pass the blood test, there's nothing wrong, and then they've just wasted a lot of time and money. You would probably need to make your own decision on that, but what some police officers do is to demand a urine sample on the spot, which is not just inconvenient, but also massively humiliating for...
What? That is unbelievable. What? I can't even believe that. That's like not even... Like, you can't just pee into a cup here in America in public. out on the road in public, you can't even do that. So the fact that the police are making you do that, that's wild. I've never heard of that.
For most people. Now, I think in a situation like that, it is worth knowing that you can refuse, and then that would force the police officers...
I probably would refuse that. Well, maybe not. I would want to refuse that, but I don't know. It would depend on the scenario.
To make a decision whether to just let you go or risk taking you in for a blood test. By the way, it used to be that they needed the authorization of...
Basically the same exact thing over here in America, though. If they suspect you of being drunk, they can do a breathalyzer. Well, first they'll do the field sobriety test where they make you walk and stuff, and then they'll do a breathalyzer. And if you refuse that, that actually is grounds for an arrest, and they'll bring you in and do blood work.
Of a judge for a blood test, but that is now no longer necessary. The second biggest exception to the no random stops rule is if you're in a situation where there is a strong possibility of criminal activity or violence. So you might be at, for example, a demonstration or an airport or a railway station or a place where criminals are known to meet. The exact rules vary from state to state, so I can't be very specific here. But in these situations, the police do have the power...
Honestly, I didn't know laws like that varied significantly state to state in Germany. Obviously, they do over here in America. The states are very, well... more or less very independent from each other as far as laws. All sorts of differences, but I didn't realize that about Germany, you know. Obviously, I know there are states, but it's interesting to know which states have different laws and stuff.
Can't be very specific here, but in these situations, the police do have the power to stop and search random people. Anywhere else, they need reasonable grounds for suspicion. Here is...
That's an interesting one, isn't it? That's kind of like it almost puts it up to the cop's discretion, it feels like, to say, yeah, this is a suspicious place, so we can stop you. But sometimes laws have to be like that, you know. Then it's just going to be up to a court and a judge to decide. You know, it's not a black and white world we live in, so it can be like that. That's really fascinating, though.
A concrete example. It happened a few years ago when I was still living in...
And I think there are similarities to that over here in America where, like if some kind of emergency situation is happening and you're there, a lot of your rights kind of change under that situation.
In Berlin, and I just wanted to get from one side of Alexanderplatz to the other. But I was stopped by a police officer who wanted to search my bag. I asked why, and they explained that some politician was giving a speech of some kind, and that therefore random stop and search was in effect. If I wanted to walk across the plaza, I had to have my bag searched.
Wow.
I hadn't planned on attending this event. I didn't even know it was on. I didn't want to fight my way through a crowd of people, and I certainly didn't want to listen to some firebrand politician I'd never heard of jabber on about how useless the government is. So I told the officer that I would really rather not be searched, thank you very much, and that I would find a different route, at which point he shrugged and said, fair enough, and it was that easy. All right.
That's cool. That's really good to know. You know, that's an appropriate response. I love to hear that. Like he said earlier, all cops are human and some humans are assholes. So some might take that as being like, oh, you're defying me. Like, oh.
So if you are stopped by the police, what are their rights, what are your rights, and what should you do? Well, if you're not actually being arrested, the police don't have too many rights. They can ask whatever questions they want, but the only ones that you have to answer are those to establish your identity. Your name, date of birth, address, and nationality. The police can also demand to see your passport or ID card, and incidentally, you are legally required to possess at least one of those, although you don't normally have
at all times
to carry it with you. In practice, in most cases, anything you have that will back up your answers ought to be sufficient. A driving license, for example. I once managed it with a bank card. Any other question you can refuse to answer. But of course, if you say nothing at all, the officers are likely to suspect that you have something to hide. On the other hand, if you say too much, you might accidentally incriminate yourself. So, what do you do? First and most important...
That is kind of the unfortunate thing about, you know, like over here in America, it's the Fifth Amendment that you don't have to. You don't have to incriminate yourself. But by not saying anything, you know, you kind of... That can be perceived to be incriminating.
Importantly, remain calm and polite. Don't give the officer...
Even if you are innocent, some people just choke under pressure and might incriminate themselves for something they didn't do. So, and I feel like I'm one of those people. So I would probably just not say anything.
There's any reason to get annoyed with you. But at the same time, whatever questions you choose to answer them briefly and never give them any information that they didn't ask for. The thing to watch out for if you do encounter some of the less professional officers is that they may try to make you say more than you should. For example, if they say something like, yeah, we've been having problems with people riding scooters while stoned, do not say, oh, that's all right, I haven't had a joint all week. The classic, of course, is, do you know why...
Well, now they've passed some laws. This is 1 year ago. Might not be illegal to be stoned
I
anymore.
pulled you over. The only correct
Oh my God, is that what they say in Germany too? That is exactly the playbook here in America. That is guaranteed if you get pulled over. Do you know why I stopped you?
answer to that question is no. And that's basically it. The police don't have many rights, but some of them do have
Yeah, that is a tricky little thing they do to try to get you to incriminate yourself, basically confess to it.
a few nasty tricks they can play on you. Be friendly, keep your answers businesslike, don't give them any information they didn't ask for, and remember that you always have the right to remain silent. But hey, the chances are that you will never need to use any of the information in this video. If this has all been just a complete waste of your time, then that's actually a good thing.
Well, I might never need to use it, but I still find it fascinating. So it definitely was not a waste of my time. Shout out to Ruboss. Check him out, link down below. That was fascinating. I love that subject. And thank you for watching. I'll see you guys on the flip side tomorrow. Goodbye.